Okay, Gimel Dalet. There is an instance of one who performs one act of eating and is liable for it for 4 katos and 1 asham. A tamei person who ate kalev, which was left over from consecrated food, and it was on Yom Kippur. Reb Meir says if it was a Sabbath and he carried it out in his mouth, he is additionally liable. Except to him, this is not in the same category. There is one who performs an act of cohabitation and is liable for up to 6 katos. He cohabitates with his daughter, may be liable for her as a daughter, his sister, his brother's wife, his father's brother's wife, a married woman, and a menstruant. And he cohabitates with his daughter's daughter, may be liable for her as his daughter-in-law, his wife's sister, his brother's wife, his father's brother's wife, a married woman, and a menstruant. Reb Yossi says if the great-grandfather transgressed and married her, he is liable for her as his father's wife, and so is he who cohabitates with his wife's daughter or is with his wife's daughter's daughter. He who cohabitates with his mother-in-law may be liable for her as his mother-in-law, his daughter-in-law, his wife's sister, his brother's wife, his father's brother's wife, a married woman, and a menstruant. And so is he who cohabitates with his mother-in-law's mother or his father-in-law's mother. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says he who cohabitates with his mother-in-law can be liable for her as his mother-in-law, his mother-in-law's mother, or his father-in-law's mother. And they said to him, the three of them are of one denomination. It'd be pretty hard to keep a secret like that in the house.
I'm actually just thinking. I was just thinking back on the case where Rabbi Yossi said that if her great grandfather went ahead and illicitly did yibum on her because his brother, remember his brother had married her, and then he did a yibum. I'm not sure how Rabbi Yossi can hold that because yibum would not work for the great grandfather if he did it on his because remember Abraham's son Ishmael has already married her,
right?
And therefore she's an erva to him. Because his son's wife is asa to him as well. So the yibum would not actually take effect. So that's an interesting little observation that in order to do that, you'd have to remove Ishmael from the proceedings.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, let's move on to Mishna Zion.
Okay.
Amar Rabbi Akiva, Sha'alti es Rabban Gamliel ve'es Rabbi Yeshua be'itlis shel emaum shalchu likach behema lemishte beno shel Rabban Gamliel. Okay, so background information over here, it's completely irrelevant. The setting is completely irrelevant to the mission itself. It's just saying that Rabban Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua were in the butchery in Emaum, okay, because they were buying food for Rabban Gamliel's son's wedding. Okay, why is that relevant? Oh wow, I just noticed that the roof of my sukkah has blown away.
Oh.
Yo.
Why couldn't they just start with one of
right now I'm actually not even sitting in a sukkah. I didn't realize, but we seem to have had some serious winds going over here. We need to go and fix that. Anyway,
they could have started with just one who could cohabitates with his sister. They didn't need this information.
So this information is just according to Kahati saying that even when the Chachamim were out doing mundane things, they were still talking Divrei Torah.
Right.
Okay. So he asks the question, so 3 sisters over here. So using the same sort of logic as we had. We're not talking about 3 different women, because 3 different women is not even a shaila. He'd be chayv for each one separately. But it's the same woman, and she's related to him through 3 different sister configurations. Let's not dive into this because we've been through all of the different configurations. Take it as a given that you can have such a situation where one woman is asked to him both as his own sister and the sister of his father and the sister of his mother somehow. Okay, and now he comes to her b'shogeg. What is this? What is the situation? Is he chayv achas al kulan? Does he have one isur? Is it one chatas for all 3 offenses, or achas al kol achas ve'achas, or is it for each one individually? For each one is considered a separate offense because they're all considered like in the getter of sister, but they're three separate Isurim. Amru lo shamanu. We have no clear Masorah for this. Aval shamanu habal chamesh nasha nidos behelim echad. If he had relations with 5 of his wives, who are all nidos, in one misunderstanding, right? One in unawareness. Shu chayv al kol achas ve'achas. He is definitely chayav on each one of them. V'roin anu she'advarim kal v'chomer. They say, well, it's a kal v'chomer that he should be chayav for each offense. Now, why did they say this is a kal v'chomer? It's not a good kal v'chomer. Says Kahati. This Mishna is strange. It says it's not a good kal v'chomer because with 5 wives, they're different people, which is not the case when he's coming to one woman. So how could this be a kal v'chomer? Nonetheless, the maskana of the Gemara is that he is chayav for 3 chataos. Why? Because we learn from what is said, ervas achoso gila. Okay, his sister, he revealed his sister's nakedness. It's unnecessary to add this. He's already said that he's chayav. So the drasha is from that extra pasuk that he is in fact chayav for each separate offense. Okay. Mishna ches v'od shalan Rabbi Akiva. So while he's talking to them in the same incident, we start talking about a subject that we've got nothing to do with Kerisos. And he's just following on with other questions that he had for his teachers. Either hamadul dal babahema. So if you have an animal with a limb that is nearly severed, it's had an accident and it's like it's detached almost completely from the animal's body. It's never going to reattach. You won't be able to do any kind of surgery to fix it back on unless you're like in nowadays with modern medicine. Okay. Mahu, what's the situation? And the question is it considered tameh as Eva Menachai already?
Okay.
So they answered him, Lo shamanu, we don't have a clear Masorah. Aval shamanu be'ever hamadul dal ba'adam. But we do have a Masorah about what happens when a person has such a limb. Shehu tahor. This is not considered Eva Menachai for the person. Shekach hayu mukeshchin sheberushalayim osin. This is a situation where people who are afflicted with shchin, which is I don't think it's boils because boils don't cause your limbs to fall off, but perhaps this is leprosy, and if a person had a limb that was no longer functional and he needed to have it removed, but it's just before Pesach, and he doesn't want to become tameh from touching a severed limb.
That's what it says. Yeah.
And the physician also, like the physician who's going to normally would do the amputation for him, also doesn't want to become tameh just before Pesach. He wants to bring a korban Pesach. He doesn't want to become tameh and have to wait until Pesach Sheni. So, holech lo erev Pesach etzel harofe. So he goes to the surgeon before on erev Pesach. V'chotcho ad shehu meniach bo kisora. And he severs it until there's just like the narrowest, like a barley grain of flesh holding this limb still on. And then the surgeon says, okay, now it's up to you. Tochava basira, and the patient then goes and tucks this limb behind some sort of a nail or something and yanks away. And both of them are tahor as long as they do this outdoors because the severed limb would be metame be'ohel. Okay, so if for a person this is not considered an eva minachai, then kal v'chomer it's not eva minachai for the limb of an animal. Ve'od sha'alan Rabbi Akiva. Further question he asked him on the same incident. Hashochet chamisha zvachim b'chutz behelim echad mahu. Okay, so he's got 5 korbanos, and he takes them all outside the mikdash and shechts them there. Is that one offense? Does he that he brings a chatas for, or does he have to bring 5 chatas? 5 achas al kulam or achas al kol echad ve'echad. Amru lo shamanu, and say we don't have a Masorah. Amar Rabbi Yeshua says I do have one Masorah. Says Rabbi Yeshua. Shamati be'ochel mizevach echad b'chamisha tamchuyim. if a person eats from one korban in 5 different bowls, behelem echad, and this is talking about somebody who is tameh. Is that right? Sorry. This is talking about me'ilah, where he didn't realize it was kodshim, and he wasn't supposed to eat from it, and now he has to bring at least one korban me'ilah, but does he have to bring 5? So Rabbi Yeshua says the Masorah I have is that this guy has to bring 5 korbanot for me'ilah. And this is a kal v'chomer, he says, that for me'ilah, which is why is it a kal v'chomer? Because me'ilah, he even though he's eating from only one zevach, from separate bowls, okay. Here it's 5. It's so even though it's one zevach from 5 separate bowls, but nonetheless we have a Masorah that he's achayev 5 times. This is guy who's doing 5 separate actions on 5 different korbanos. For sure, it must be a kal v'chomer. Okay. Amar Rabbi Shimon lo kach shalan Rabbi Akiva. He says no. You've got the Masorah wrong, says Rabbi Shimon. I heard it differently from Rabbi Akiva. This is what he asked. Ela v'ochel nosar mechamisha and zevachim behelim echad. Not talking about shchutei chutz. We're talking about eating nosar from 5 different korbanos in one lapse of awareness. What's the din there? Does he have to bring 5 chataos? 5 achas al kulan or achas al kol echad va'echad? Amru lo shamanu. But he says this is where he gives the same response. Amar Rabbi Yeshua shamati v'ochel mizevach echad b'chamisha tzamchoim behelem echad shiu 5 al kol echad va'echad mishum me'ilah v'roa anisha devarim kal v'chomer. So he says so it's a kal v'chomer again from me'ilah from these 5 bowls. Again, it's because it's one korban and in 5 bowls, then that he's chayav on. Surely 5 korbanos that he's eating nosa from, he must be chayav on each one. Amar Rabbi Kiva, im halacha nekabel. He says if you have a Masorah of that, then fine, Seder. V'im ladin, if you're just doing a kal v'chomer, yesh teshuvah. He says I can break your kal v'chomer. Amar lo. So Rabbi Yeshua said to him, okay, go for it. Hashev. Amar lo im amarta b'me'ilah she'asa ba'isa ma'achil ka'ochel. He says me'ilah itself is a more stringent offense than just stam eating nosar. Why? Because me'ilah is not only on the person who ate, but also on the person who gave him to eat.
Yes.
Both of them have to bring a korban me'ilah. And the one who gives the benefit is gets the same punishment as the one who receives the benefit. And me'ilah is for a long amount of time. That all you have to that if he has half a prut of benefit in the morning and half a prut of benefit in the afternoon, he still brings his korban me'ilah. Nosar has to be eaten. The person who eats it has to bring, and it's got a limited amount of time. So he said your kal v'chomer is not good, and it breaks down. We don't see a psak over here, whether we follow this or not. But if it ever happens, consult your local Orthodox rabbi. Okay, Tamura.
Okay, Zion Bet. There are laws pertaining to items consecrated for temple upkeep that are not applicable to items consecrated to the altar as follows. Unspecified consecrations are assumed to be for temple offering. Upkeep. Temple upkeep sanctity takes effect upon all things. We transgress me'ilah by benefiting from that which grows from them. And there is in them the no benefit of Kohanim. Concerning both altar consecrations and temple upkeep consecrations, we cannot change them from one sanctity to another sanctity. However, we may consecrate them with a consecration of appraisal, or we may make them the object of a cherem vow. And if they died, they must be buried. Rabbi Shimon says, with regard to animals consecrated for the upkeep of the temple, if they died, they may be redeemed. And these are the things that are buried. If a consecrated animal aborted a fetus, the aborted fetus is buried. If it discharged after birth, the afterbirth is buried. And so is the ox that is stoned, and the decapitated ass, and the birds of a Matzorah, and the harab and nazir, and the firstborn donkey, and meat with milk, and cooling animals that were slaughtered in the temple courtyard. If Shimon says cooling animals that were slaughtered in the temple courtyard must be burned, and so too a chaya that was slaughtered in the temple courtyard. And these are the things that are burned.
That's it. We've done 3. Sorry.
I did talk to you. Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
Okay. Bechoros.
And next on Monday we're going to start
Kerisos.
Kerisos. We'll go back to the beginning of Kerisos.
Yeah.
Okay. Bechoros. Okay. Chetet. A Bekor receives 2 shares of his father's property, but does not receive the 2 shares of the mother's property. Neither does he receive 2 shares of the improvement, nor what is fit to come from as from what is already in his possession. Neither does a woman collect her ketubah from these, nor the daughters for the sustenance, nor the yavam. None of them receives from the improvement, nor of what is fit to come as from what is already in their possession. These do not revert in Yavel, the share of the Bechor, one who inherits his wife, one who performs Yibum with his brother's wife, and a gift. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. And the Kakaman say a gift is like a sale. Rabbi Elliot says they all revert in Yovel. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Baruch says one who inherits his wife must return it to the members of their family and must deduct from the price they pay. Okay. One more.
One more.
The might of animals applies within the land of Israel and outside the land, when the temple is in existence and when it is not in existence, and it is taken from ordinary animals but not from consecrated ones. This applies to both cattle and flocks, but one may not be taken as mice for the other, and to sheep and to goats, which may be taken as mice for each other, to both new animals and old ones, but one may not be taken as mice for the other. For it might have been argued that if new animals and old animals are not colliding with each other, yet may yet not serve as a mice for each other. Then it is not logical that sheep and goats which are colliding with each other may surely not be taken as a ma'aser for each other. The scripture states and flocks, implying that all types of flocks are considered as one. Okay. Let me see.
Yud Aleph.
What is ever more frequent than another precedes the other. The Talmud offerings precede the Musaf offerings. The Sabbath Musaf offerings precede the Rosh Chodesh offerings. And the Rosh Chodesh Musaf offerings precede the Rosh Hashanah Musaf offerings. As it is said, beside the morning Olah offerings, which is the continual Olah offering, shall you offer these. Whatever is more sacred than another precedes the other. Blood of a katos offering precedes the blood of an olah offering because it affects atonement. The limbs of an olah offering precede the sacrificial parts of a katos offering because they are entirely consigned to the altar's fires. A katos offering precedes an asham offering because its blood is applied to the 4 horns of the altar and upon the base. An asham offering precedes a soda offering and a nazir ram because it is the most holy offering. The Toda offering and the Nazir ram precede the Shalom offering because they must be eaten in one day and they require loaves of bread. Shalom offerings precede a Bakor offering because they require a 4-fold blood application to the altar, leaning, libations, and the waving of the barrel of the breast and the thigh. The Bechor offering precedes the Maisa offering because it is sanctity both at birth and it is eaten by the Kohanim. The Maisa offerings precedes bird offerings because it is slaughtered and it has parts which are most holy, as blood and sacrificial parts.
Yeah.
Okay. Baba Kama. Hey, Vav. If a pit belongs to 2 partners and the first one passes by it and does not cover it, then the second one passes by and does not cover it, and the second one is liable. If the first one covers it and the second one comes and finds it uncovered and does not cover it, the second one is liable. If he covers it properly and a bull or a donkey falls into it and dies, he's exempt. If he does not cover it properly or a bull or donkey falls into it and dies, he is liable. If it fell forward because of the sound of digging, he is liable. Backward because of the sound of digging, he is exempt. If an ox with its trappings falls into it and they break, or a donkey with the trappings and they tear, is liable for the animal but exempt for the trappings. If a bull that was deaf, foolish, or young falls into it, he is liable. A male child or a female child, a male slave and a female slave, he is exempt. A bull and all other animals are alike in regards to falling into a pit, separation from Mount Sinai, the 2-fold payments, returning a loss, unloading, muzzling, Palayim, and the Sabbath. The same applies to wild beasts and fowl, and so why is ox or donkey stated? Because scripture speaks of the usual. If he leaves it in the sun or gives it over to a deaf mute, a mentally deranged person, or a minor, and it goes out and damages, he is liable. And if he gives it over to a shepherd, the shepherd assumes the responsibility in his steed. Instead, if he falls into a garden and derives benefit, the owner pays for what is benefited. Should it go down to the usual manner of damage, he pays for what is damaged. How does it pay that for what is damaged? We appreciate how much a saw's space in that field was worth and how much it's worth. Rabbi Shimon says if he eats ripe fruit, he pays for ripe fruit, and a saw for
Hold
two saws. No, if a saw,
Hold on. I think you've skipped because I've lost my place in that, and you're already in Mishnah Bes. You were in the middle of Mishnah Aleph, and I think you skipped a page.
Yes, I did. Okay. Aleph. If one brings a sheep into a fold and locks the door before it's properly, but it gets out and damages, he is exempt. If he does not lock the door before it properly and it gets out and damages, he's liable. If it breaks at night, or if robbers break in and it goes out and damages, he's exempt. Should robbers take it out, the robbers are liable.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah. Okay, Erevin.
Okay, Zion Vav. How do we make a shittu for an alley? One places a barrel and declares, let this belong to all the residents of the alley. He may confer possession to them through his adult son or daughter, through his Jewish maidservant or maidservant, and through his wife, but he may not confer possession to his minor son or daughter, not through his Canaanite wife, a slave or slave woman, because their hand is like his. If their food became diminished, one may add and confer possession, but he does not have to not notify them. If more residents were added, he may add and confer possession, and he must notify them. What is the quantity when they are numerous? Food for 2 wheels for all of them. When they are few, the volume of the dried figures in the case of transferring on the Sabbath for each and every one. Okay. That's the one I missed.
Right, so we're starting Nida now.
Okay, I'm sorry. I knew I was.
Zoom.
Okay, Nida, Aleph. Shammai says regarding all women that their times of discovering a discharge of blood suffice for them. Hillel says they are considered tamei from the time of their last examination to the time of the present examination, even for many days. But the comments say the law is neither in accordance with the words of this one nor with accordance with the words of that one. Rather, 24 hours reduces the time from examination to examination, and from examination to examination reduces the time of 24 hours. For any woman who has a fixed period, her time suffices for her. And one who examines herself with examination cloths when she engages in marital relations, this examination is the equivalent of a regular examination and reduces the time of 24 hours and the time from examination to examination. What is an example of a law that her time suffices for her? If a woman had been sitting on a bed and handling toros, and she left the bed and discovered a discharge of uterine blood, she is tamei, but they are all tahor. Even though the sages say that she conveys truma retroactively for 24 hours, she begins counting only from the time that she sees the discharge. Eliezer says there are four women whose time suffices for them: a virgin, a pregnant woman, a nursing woman, and an old woman. Rabbi Shua says, I heard this law only with regard to a virgin. However, the law is like Reb Eliezer.
Okay, and that's it.